All right, Browser Tamer. So what is this and how does it work? So Browser Tamer was created by myself to ease automation when I was working with a different profile in Chrome. So I had one profile for my personal stuff and I have another profile for work. Then I've got Slack, for instance, or email client like Outlook or whatever you use. And every time I was clicking on an email link, it would open in the default browser. So in Chrome, it's whatever profile you used the latest. And if I would want to use, let's say, Firefox for work and for personal purposes, that would really become dirty and really, really annoying. So Browser Tamer solves that problem. Of course, there are many similar utilities like Browser Tamer, and they all work the same way. So essentially, let's say this is your computer, and on the computer you have multiple browsers. Let's say you've got Edge, and you've got Firefox, maybe you've got Chrome, if you don't value your privacy, and so on and so on. In Edge, you can have different profiles, let's say personal, and maybe work. And on Firefox, well, Firefox doesn't actually have profiles, but it has something called containers, which I'll cover later. And in Chrome, you can have the same thing. So you can have profile 1, profile 2, and so on. One of those browsers will be registered as a default. And you often see those annoying pop-ups when you install the browser. Oh, do you want to set me as a default? Yes or no? And what that means that, let's say, if you launch Firefox and you set it as a default, it will register the Firefox as a default browser in the OS itself. All right? So it registers the browser in the system as a default. That means all of the links clicked externally will make Windows to open them in Firefox. You can do the same for other browsers as well. So you can set the Edge as a default, or you can set Chrome as a default. It doesn't matter. Now, how Chrome works, and Edge works the same way, by the way, as well, because it's basically based on Chromium, is that when you set it as a default and you have more than one profile, it will open a link in the last profile you've used. So if this is your personal profile and you've just used it, you click on the link in Outlook, it will open it in a personal profile. If you used work profile, it will be the opposite. So it is becoming pretty annoying pretty quickly. Now, what Browser Tamer does is a very similar thing. So it tells Windows that Browser Tamer itself is another browser. It registers itself in a Windows registry, saying it can handle HTTPS and HTTP links. Now, when you click a link and your default browser is Browser Tamer, it will then decide how to open that link. So there will be some magic logic over here in Browser Tamer saying, okay, if the link, let's say, contains jira.com, I will find Edge browser installed on your system and open it in a work profile. If the link is, let's say, libgen.rs, I will go and open it in the Firefox. I mean, this is essentially the core of what Browser Tamer does. I mean, it's really simple. Only the mechanics of registering Browser Tamer as a browser and finding browsers already installed on your system, or letting you to register your own for that matter, is what Browser Tamer is good at, to be honest. So how does Browser Tamer knows about all of these browsers you've got installed on your system? Well, I think it's one of the unique selling points of the Browser Tamer itself. So it can actually auto-detect those browsers. And there is no official way to do that reliably. So there is a little bit of guesswork happening in the Browser Tamer code itself. Now, this guesswork can be seen from the user interface itself. The user interface will show you all of the auto-detected browsers straight after you install the Browser Tamer. So as you can see, the Microsoft Edge has personal and work profile, and there is also in private profile for convenience, just in case you want to open links in the incognito or in private window, as some browsers call it. You can also refresh this list by going to Tools, Rediscover Browsers. See there's a notification, discovered 3 browsers, and what this will do is essentially scan the registry and see what profiles you've got installed. These rules next to each profile essentially indicate that Browser Tamer should open this browser after it receives the link request, being a default browser in the system. And sometimes you will see this warning dialog, which essentially checks the health of the Browser Tamer for it to be sufficient to become the browser in the system. So in this case, the Browser Tamer is installed, it's set as HTTP and HTTPS protocol handler. However, it's not registered as default browser, so all the links you click will be opened elsewhere. You can do that by pressing fix, and it does some trickery to register itself as a browser. That's essentially it. There are many other features, mostly oriented on creating and applying the rules so the correct links can be opened in correct browsers. If you want to know more about that, or you prefer a video tutorials, please let me know in the comments and subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching and happy clicking.